Have you ever felt like something inside you is always preventing you from achieving your goals, even when you're doing your best? The answer may be hidden, concealed in your personality. This hidden side, Carl Jung called the shadow. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is incorporated into the individual's conscious life, the darker and denser it is. In every respect, it constitutes an unconscious obstacle, thwarting our best-intentioned intentions. Carl Jung. In Jungian psychology, the concept of shadow refers to that part of us that we prefer to hide, our fears, repressed desires, and qualities that we deem unacceptable. It is the unconscious, unknown place where prejudices, traumas, and unhealed wounds come from, and it has great potential for healing. We hide our negative sides, not only from others, but also from ourselves, to avoid facing our own imperfections. Essentially, the shadow is not only home to negative aspects of the personality, it also possesses creative and powerful abilities. Certain aspects of our shadow come from our evolution. Others are shaped by upbringing, the behavior of parents, teachers, and the way we were brought up. According to Jung, the shadow is formed through a process of social conditioning and our attempts to conform to external standards. It is the result of our efforts to fit in with social expectations and norms. As we grow up, we learn what is considered acceptable or unacceptable by our family, society, and culture. In the process of trying to be accepted, we begin to suppress or hide certain aspects of ourselves that may not be in line with these expectations. These suppressed thoughts, emotions, and behaviors make up our shadow. For example, if we are told that expressing anger is not appropriate, we can learn to hide or deny our feelings of anger. Over time, these hidden emotions become part of our shadow. Jung also talked about projection, which happens when we attribute to others what we don't accept in ourselves. For example, if you can't handle your own anger, you'll think that everyone around you is angry. It's as if we create shadows in other people. What if the defects you see in others are just a reflection of your own hidden fears? Perhaps what you're trying to push away is closer than you think. What would happen if, instead of fighting these repressed parts, you brought them to light? It could be that what you fear most is the key to your greatest power. Discovering and integrating the shadow unlocks the great potential we have. It enables a fuller understanding of our strengths, our prejudices, our weaknesses, and our limitations. This is the true path to self-knowledge. Instead of running away, see what's inside. This makes us more aware and also gives us control over these hidden aspects. Jung reminds us that true power lies in embracing all our complexity, light, and shadow. Have you ever found yourself repeating the same mistakes and wondered why you seem to be stuck in a cycle? What is hidden in the darkness can be the real driver of these silent repetitions. The unconscious shadow can be integrated into consciousness, but more often than not, the shadow is beyond the threshold of human perception. It's easy to focus only on the light, but what you'll discover is that the true path to self-knowledge lies in confronting what we avoid. And it is in this confrontation that the power of transformation lies. No one is enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making darkness conscious. The latter procedure, however, is unpleasant and therefore not very popular. Carl Jung. The distinction between individuals lies in the degree of awareness they have of their shadow. When we are not aware of our shadow, it can cause problems in our lives. The feelings and thoughts we try to ignore don't disappear. In fact, they continue to act even without our awareness. In simple terms, the shadow has the power to influence our conscious side and control our thoughts, emotions, and behavior. This means that we can be driven by difficulties without realizing it, without understanding that these difficult moments are actually the result of choices we have made, and not just a matter of bad luck or fate. The psychological rule says that when an internal situation does not become conscious, it happens externally as fate. That is, when the individual remains undivided and does not become aware of his inner opposite, the world must necessarily represent the conflict and be divided into opposite halves. Carl Jung. When a person's shadow is relegated to the depths of the unconscious, it can wreak havoc in their life and will exert unconscious control over their thoughts, emotions, choices, and actions. To avoid the negative effects of the shadow, it is crucial to consciously recognize and accept the dark aspects of our personality. We must accept them without judgment, understanding that they are not repulsive parts of who we are. but essential and vital elements of our identity. It is essential to understand that life's mission is not to achieve perfection, but to achieve wholeness. Since wholeness encompasses both good and evil, light and dark, achieving this wholeness in personality development requires the conscious integration of our shadow. It's very common to think that the shadow is an entity, an external enemy, that tries to invade the mind and corrupt our thoughts, feelings, and actions. We forget that the devil, the enemy in this case, is not an outsider. He is within our own subconscious. According to Jung, we need to become exorcists of our innermost demons. Imagine that there is a force inside you, invisible and silent but full of power. It is waiting, and if it is not brought to light, it can emerge in unexpected and destructive ways. Jung says that the shadow must be confronted, because when repressed it lurks like an angry dragon locked in a dungeon. If not made conscious, the shadow can cause serious psychological damage. The encounter with oneself is, at first, the encounter with one's own shadow. The shadow is a narrow passage, a narrow door whose painful grip does not spare those who descend into the deep pit. But you have to learn to know yourself in order to know who you are. Carl Jung. As we delve into our depths, we realize that our consciousness is often not in complete control and is influenced by the power of our shadow. Once we become more aware of these dark aspects, we must honor them and find a way to integrate them into our lives. The shadow must become part of the person's conscious personality. There is no magic formula for recognizing and integrating the shadow. It's an individual matter. First, you have to accept and take seriously the existence of the shadow. Secondly, you have to become aware of its qualities and intentions. This happens through conscious attention to moods, fantasies, and impulses. Thirdly, a long process of negotiation is inevitable. Carl Jung. According to Jung, the shadow is the gateway to our self. The path to self-knowledge is to descend into the depths of the unconscious, to become aware of who we really are. In order to properly integrate our shadow, we need to observe social customs and our own view of conscious morality. After all, most of our shadow qualities have been repressed in our unconscious because we believed them to be unacceptable, either socially or according to our family or society. A common technique in integrating the shadow is to ignore customs considered superficial or useless, which were adopted just to fit in and be accepted. This tactic can help us free ourselves from the expectations of others, allowing us to look inwards without judgment or condemnation and discover who and what we really are. Have you ever stopped to think what you would find if you looked deeply into the parts of yourself that you have been avoiding? True revelation can be not only uncomfortable, but transformative. When we go through a period of uncertainty and difficulty in our lives, we should look at the dark and previously unacceptable side that has been consciously available to us. In the words of Connie Zweig, only when we realize that part of ourselves that we have not seen until now or prefer not to see, can we question it and find the sources from which it feeds and the foundation on which it rests. Therefore, no progress or growth is possible until the shadow is properly confronted, and confronting it means more than merely knowing about it. Only when we are truly shocked to see ourselves as we really are, rather than as we wish or assume, can we take the first step towards individual reality. Connie Zweig, Finding the Shadow. By confronting the shadows, we will be more aware of all those invisible forces in our mind. Our outlook on life will be free of prejudices, uninfluenced by weaknesses. We will find our strengths and hidden qualities. This increases confidence and has healing power. The shadow is most visible when someone is overwhelmed by anxiety or other strong emotions. It can also express itself more internally in inexplicable states of mind, such as self-hatred, irritability, cruelty. As Jung wrote, there is no light without shadow, no psychic integrity without imperfection. One should not seek perfection, but the integrity of the personality. The process of individuation, which lasts a lifetime, creates a balance between the conscious and unconscious realms, aligning the ego with the self, the integrity of the personality. What if, along this journey, you discover that the parts of yourself that you try to hide the most are precisely those that need to be seen the most? Perhaps the path to true completeness is more complex than it seems at first glance. Jung explains that the shadow is not only a personal phenomenon, but also a collective one. It represents the unrecognized and repressed aspects of the human psyche shared by a society. It manifests itself in the form of prejudices, wars, hate speech, massacres, and genocides. This shadow, often obscured, influences individual and collective behavior in subtle ways, shaping social dynamics. But make no mistake, the shadows we carry are not just ours. They spread throughout society, fueling conflicts and prejudices. What you do with your personal shadow can have consequences that go far beyond your own world. Have you ever thought about what might happen when you start to face these hidden sides? The first step on this journey may be simple, but the revelations that come can change everything you thought you knew about yourself. Integrating the shadow is a personal and unique journey for each individual. Some practices that can help include meditation and mindfulness, to observe thoughts and emotions without judgment. Writing about your emotions and experiences can be liberating. Expressing your emotions through art can be a way of processing them. As you put down on paper what you feel and what you fear, you may begin to notice things that have always been there, but which until now you have never had the courage to see. Therapy. A therapist can provide a safe space to explore the shadow. Start by observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Which parts of you are hiding in the shadows? What is the first step you will take to integrate them? Write in the comments and let's go together to integrate the shadow and achieve self-knowledge. Don't miss the next video. We'll be bringing you more content on self-knowledge and personal development.